on record and let everyone in.
All right.
Oh man.
Welcome everyone. I'm super excited for everyone to come together today, whether you're joining us live on Facebook or you're live in the Zoom room, or you're watching it and you're live, but we're recorded in the Facebook guides for Scale to Wealth. We're excited that you're here with us. As y'all know, I'm Caitlin, and I work together with Brett on Be Wealthy and our Scale to Wealth training and education program. And we have had a quick transition based upon y'all's request to take our traditional Thursday calls and actually utilize them to highlight business owners within our Be Wealthy community that are absolutely crushing it. And the criteria for crushing it really is those two tracks of curriculum that Brett teaches so well. The one track, which is going to be your operating business. We spend about 20% of our time focusing on the operating business. In this instance, the gentleman I'm about to introduce you to, that's his retail real estate business. And so we spend about 20% of the time helping to have curriculum around increasing profitability, leverage points, and opportunity here to do one specific thing. And that's to go to the second track and build our actual wealth. And we focus on the protections as well as the growth opportunities within wealth. And so the criteria to be nominated by Brett to be on this call is to be following that curriculum on both tracks. And so this week, Brett has asked us to dive deep into my friend Kaleo's world and learn a little bit more about him and how he's crushing it. And so I'd love to introduce all of you. Oh man, and my PowerPoint's sticking to him. Before we do, much suspense, we have a few housekeeping items. So the first is, as you have questions, if we're going through, if you're watching on Facebook Live, I think you type your questions there below. We've got Cindy on the back end who's going to go ahead and funnel those questions over to us. If you are watching live in the Zoom room, you can unmute yourself and ask a question live, or you can also put them in the chat box and we'll have some open Q&A afterward at the end. All right, let's dive right in. So our special guest today is Kaleo Kina. Did I say your last name right, Kaleo?
You did.
Did I say your first name right?
One of the few people. You've had a couple chances to practice, but that's right.
I did. I've known you for a little bit. So we have a couple bullet points about Kaleo that I'll run through, but then we're going to allow him to fill in some of the holes on his own. So Kaleo is a military veteran, Naval Academy graduate with 8 years served as a surface warfare officer. On behalf of our whole community, thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you.
He is a team leader or a co-CEO of a KW Elite 757 agent office. So 757 business owners there. He grew it from 68, Elite
757 is our zip,
Oh my gosh. I'll let you know what, Kaleo, I'm going to let you do the intro. You tell us about yourself.
Yes, I'm the co-CEO of Keller Williams Elite 757. I've been in that position for about 18 months, going on 2 years. So we took over, it was about 60 agents. I was the top producer in the office and then stepped into leadership. And in less than 2 years, we have over 100 agents now. And we're about to bring in a 40 agent MAO. So it'll be about 140 by the end of this year. I also have a retail team. I have a partner, Megan Morris is my partner. We partner on Cova Collective Realty. So we're the #1 small team in our association this year, awarded this year. For last year, we did 83 million in volume, 249 units. And we run pretty lean. So I have 7 agents, 5 agents in production. We have a very specific model. And then by being in this group, we were definitely open to the wealth building side. And so we did launch Fast Cash for Homes, which is basically investments acquisitions. That actually was launched this month. We had our first mail drops, 5,000 pieces of mail for the next 3 months, and we've already closed our first assignment for 22K. So that's super exciting in our world. We're big on ancillaries. I was kind of involved in it before, but Daniel Dixon is a big name in this group. He's been a mentor of mine. He's kind of helped me grow that as well. So tons of business growth and personal growth I've received from this opportunity to be in relationship with you guys. So I'm super thankful.
One of the things that I noticed, Kaleo, is we have the operating business here. So your core, right, which is the retail real estate team of Kova Collective, which you are partners with Megan in. That's
Correct.
the core operating business here.
Yes.
The success that you've had here, you've now tacked on in this track ancillaries, which have produced over 100,000. Is that right?
Yeah. So we'll do over 100K just in settlement, 90K in a mortgage JV. And we just launched our home insurance. So we'll get about 1,000 a month. So that'd be like 12K. So it's more, I just trying to be conservative.
Well, I appreciate that. However, this is the time to actually brag and share what you're doing because you're crushing it. You have 45 minutes to put the humble card in your pocket and share with us, but I'll also get to some of your failures, which I expect you to tell the whole truth on those too. So you've taken the operating business, you've tacked on the ancillaries to increase the profitability and revenue to now go and make that transition that you're doing on the wealth side. One of the things you just mentioned was you have just launched Fast Cash for Homes. How long ago did y'all launch that? Was it a few months ago, you said?
No, literally this month. So we got the LLC created. Our mail dropped on the 21st, which I think was yesterday. But some of our mindset had shifted as we were building it. So we had already had like a assignment in the pipeline. So as soon as the bank account opened, we closed the deal.
Awesome. And you closed it for a $22,000 assignment?
Yep, 20K assignment, 2K. It was like we were renting it back, so we charged them $2,000 or something like that. So 22K total, yeah.
22K total. Congratulations. When did you guys decide to open up that additional operating business?
We decided the first time we went to a Be Wealthy mastermind, which was like almost a year and a half ago, or a year ago, so last October. We realized in February we didn't do anything with it, right? And so then we got significantly more intentional in February, and then we've been talking about it and moving it forward, and then now we launched it. There was a lot of research. I'm a military guy, so like a lot of back end. I called like 7 different members of the Be Wealthy group. So shout out to Isabella Stonebreaker, Andy Staten, Candace Decker. Like I did a lot of like research and development, like, what are you guys doing? What's your asset class? Blah, 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 until we believed we had enough in place to like make a confident decision. And then we moved one of our retail agents who has a knack for investing. And that's kind of where we want to be like the director of operations for that side and our key employee to grow that side.
Sure. Well, first, congratulations for taking action there. You're at the tip of the iceberg of the opportunity, right? So the investment in wholesale business really serves 2 specific purposes. It serves the purpose of increasing your deal flow. And for Brett hates this, and I know this is recorded and he's going to hear it and he's going to be mad that I say this, the junk or the items that you don't want, the deals that you don't want, you're able to wholesale out, and your junk is another man's treasure. And someone else will have that opportunity, but you can make the additional revenue there to keep increasing the opportunities for yourself on the other end. So congratulations taking action there. You said you had some trepidation though at the beginning.
Obviously it wasn't our primary, like we knew, I mean, Gary said a long time ago, but like every good deal passes through an agent's hands first. And I think the more that we attended these wealthy masterminds, you know, proximity, like the things you focus on expand. So we've heard about this investment, you know, model, and it's like, man, now we're coming across more investment type deals. And was it, they were always there and we just weren't paying attention, or now that we're listening to it, they're coming up more? And so there were a couple of deals before the company started. So we kind of did a wholesale where we negotiated 30% of profit and a 30% and the agreement for us to list at 3%. And then we did our first flip. We had an 80K net, like net. We took home 80K and split it. So we like dibble dabbled in a couple of opportunities using like the ideas. And then we were like, we've heard it over here. People that are way more successful than us are doing it at a high level. We've op tested a couple of scenarios and there's real, you know, revenue and profit here. And so like, we really need to do it. And then we went after it. Congratulations.
What market are you in?
Hampton Roads, so Virginia. So the Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Chesapeake, we are called the 7 cities or Hampton Roads because we have like 7 cities all like in the same area. So sometimes people call and say, can you service? Like we can get to every city in 30 minutes. So like all 7 cities, so Hampton Roads.
Any question that starts with "do you service?" the answer is yes.
Yes.
By default. It's an easy script. What is your average sales price in your market?
For retail, 323,000.
Okay. Awesome.
9750 GCI.
The reason I ask that is a lot of people who are on this call and who are part of it are obviously in all different markets across the country. And one of the things we so often hear, which is Brett loves it because he loves challenge, is like, oh, that's cute, but that won't work in my market. And so I always like to share with people that once we start asking those questions, and it's one of the questions I ask on each of these interviews, these same systems and models shockingly work in most markets. And so when people come across and say like, oh, that's neat, but not in my market. Andy Statton, who you mentioned, was one of those, right?
Yes.
He's like, that's not going to work in my market, not within like a 4-hour radius of driving. And arguably he has made more in his investment opportunities this year than anyone else in our group.
Yeah, I don't want to share his information, but relationships are, I was actually just talking to Andy year to date. I think he's at 750K.
Well, good news, teaser. I'm glad you dropped that. He will actually be on next week.
Oh man, well, figure out how he got to that. He did 3 months. So like, he's actually a part of my story, but we can get to that later.
Well, why don't we jump into that? So he's a part of your story. Tell me a little bit more about that.
I know we're, one of the things we talked about was about limiting beliefs, right? And so I think based on where you're from, one of the things you just discussed is a limiting belief. That won't happen in my market. It can't. It's not available. It's not able to be done. And oftentimes that's about the market. What I found where I come from and my circle of influence and my family, fortunately and unfortunately, I've already surpassed kind of like what we would consider successful, right? And so some of my limiting belief was I had these invisible ceilings on like, well, I'm already doing better than those around me. And so this is how far I want to go, not knowing that like I was putting a cap on my potential. And so I had went to I'm big on education, but a training course, and Andy was there. We happened to go to a bar and we're sitting next to each other, and I love talking. So I was just asking him about himself. And what I realized in that moment was Andy's goals were so far, and probably because he was in your guys' world first, so far and so big that I realized that like when he was discussing like what is success, what is on goal, and what be like his minimum or not good, what he would have considered not good was beyond my wildest imagination.
Wow.
So then I went back and I really reflected. I think I even called my wife and I'm like, yo, I just met this dude, and like his worst level of living is better than I've ever dreamed we could live. And I was just like, why not? I think I'm a good dude. I got it. Like I went to the academy. Like I think I can do it too. I don't know why I can't. And so I unpacked a lot of that. Like I didn't really believe in myself the way I thought. And it takes being around people doing it at a higher level to kind of push you through. And I tell him that to his face. And every time I see him, like, it's corny, but like it was a pivotal moment in my life where somebody challenged my belief system. And it was the first time I became aware that I was like, no, it can be done. You just gotta, nothing can't be accomplished as long as you're willing to do whatever it takes.
That's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. I think that's so incredibly true. And then when you keep getting in different rooms or bigger rooms, I think a lot of times we're fearful to get in them because, oh, we don't belong there. We have imposter syndrome, any of those pieces that come up. But if you actually utilize that to challenge yourself and to change your mental paradigm or your framework upon which you operate, it really is impactful. And you're right. Sometimes it seems cheesy where you're like, oh, I need to just expand my mind. And it's like, no, it really is true when you look at the practical application of it, for sure. It's just like when we're in the same concept of, I talk to my nieces, they're in elementary school. What do they want to be? A teacher, a firefighter, the president, the only 3 things they know, right? Maybe an astronaut, because that's here too, right? So it's the same for us, unless we're in the rooms and have the same exposures. It's a really silly example, but it's true. It's what you're exposed to that can expand your ability to think differently. You have been a crazy successful guy. It sounds like most of your life. So let me ask you this. How has failure or apparent failure set you up for later success? Do you have a favorite failure of yours?
A favorite failure. Uh,
It's a funny way to think of it.
yeah, I think like what I just discussed is a part of that, like not knowing that you have such a limited mindset, and putting yourself, in that position to like be exposed or to feel uncomfortable. And so like I really enjoy like locally, like I'm pretty like I'm the successful guy. So I love helping and pouring into it. But when I go to be wealthy, I feel like I'm the low man on the totem pole. And it's like, I love living in that uncomfortableness because it's like, how quickly can I climb this pole or this ladder of leaders that I'm surrounded by? And so I think that is a big thing, is like my favorite failure is like the limited mindset that I had, because now that I've pushed through it, it's really like, like, how can I change my mother's mindset around success, or my brothers and my sisters and my agents and my friends, because we've all believed that this was the cap. And so like I'm flirting on the edge of being right over it. I'm like, life is good over here. Like if we can just believe that we can do it, or find the people, the structures, the process to help us do it, like it's not a fallacy, like we can have it. And so that was a big limiting belief, was that. If it was a favorite failure, I played basketball in high school and at the Naval Academy. I may or may not be in the Hall of Fame. My name's easy to Google, so you can verify it. I did win a gold medal in the military, but I felt like I had it easy. I grew up, in a predominantly African-American and Mexican high school, right? And so I joke around that I always looked good because I would always get the worst defender because I was the only one that wasn't Black. So I got the worst defender up front, so I had the opportunity to stand out. And so that's how I got my Naval Academy basketball scholarship. So looking like you're not that much, but being able to prove them wrong was another one for me.
I like it. I really like that. That's awesome. We just spent a minute talking about failures, but what are three key things that you would say most contribute to your success?
Awesome. This is easy. I do some speaking engagements, so I love saying this. The key tenets of my life, period, are relationships, education, and execution. And so why is that? I believe that we're all better together. There isn't a business I have that I don't have a partner. Now, some people buck the trend of that, of like, you need to own everything on your own, and I get it. But my belief system is my real estate team has a partner. I didn't take the TL position. I took a co-TL position because I was going to bring on a friend. I wasn't going to do it without him, right? I'm married to my wife. That's a partnership. And so everything I do, I believe that people can plus you up, right? The right people in the right seats. And so the more you surround yourself with people and you said that word, expose yourself to the different circles and opportunities, I think the faster you can put yourself on the right track. Everything in this world, somebody has done it before you, or they're doing it at a higher level than you. So, smart people learn from their own mistakes. Wise people learn from the mistakes of others. And so how many people can I expose myself to learn as fast as I can, which leads me to education. I believe we need to be professional learners. Brett talks about this, and it was something I believe, but like, no one cares about your money more than yourself, right? And so, or it should more than yourself. And so I had a lot of learning lessons on like, you should get a whole life at this age and this much, and then you should listen to Dave Ramsey, and then you should do this. And I took a lot of information that I didn't understand and I just executed. But without educating myself, people only speak to you on the level that you understand. And so then I allowed myself to be led in a direction that I didn't know was the right way or not. And so while they were thinking they were giving me good input, it really wasn't, but that's my fault because I didn't educate myself to the level I needed to make an informed decision. And then the last one's execution. And so nothing happens if nothing happens. I have a lot of friends. I love them, and I tell them they're just great idea fairies. Like, oh, we can do this, or oh, we should do that. I'm a very systematic person. Like, I think you need to pick a model you really believe in, and you need to execute for 3 to 6 months. It needs some runtime, and then you need to evaluate the results, and then you need to re-execute, right? And so if nothing happens, nothing happens. So the 3 biggest things I can say is relationships. Go find as many people and bring value to them as much as you can. Make sure you're a professional learner. You could always learn something new. And then at the very end of the day, go execute what needs to be done, right? Otherwise, you'll never be able to evaluate if it was success or not, because you never even put forth the effort to get it done.
I was writing this down and taking notes, and, in the time that I've gotten to know you, I've seen all 3 of those. And the way that I wrote it, and it just kind of hit me differently, was that it was a three-legged stool, that each of those pieces, one without the other two, is going to be limited. So if it's just relationships and education, but nothing happens, nothing happens. If it's just relationships and execution, but there's no education behind it, it's not as fast. If it's just education and execution, but you're by yourself, that's going to have a limiting effect. That it's all three of those together, and that describes your personality and how I've gotten to know you and what I've seen you, learned that you've accomplished in the past, and then see you accomplishing today. That's awesome. That hit me. That was, guys, we're out of here. I just had a takeaway.
Don't worry, you just added a new slide to my own present. I'm gonna do it exactly that way too. So I appreciate you for putting it together for me.
Well, it's just that my brain is very elementary and a lot of visuals. And so the stool it just hit me that way. So let me ask you this, just pivoting for a second. What is an unusual habit or absurd thing that you love? What's something really crazy about you that we should know?
Really crazy. This may surprise you, but I hate being alone. And so if you've noticed, like whenever I go to a Be Wealthy event, I bring my business partner or I coordinate with Daniel. Like I don't like going anywhere alone. And so I don't like doing anything alone. Like my wife hates it. And so she'll be like, hey babe, y'all want to watch a movie? I'm like, yeah. Oh, the Brands and the Diggs are coming over too. They haven't seen the movie either, right? And she's like, what do we like? Do you want to go eat? I'm like, yeah, the Santos family's meeting us at the restaurant. They've already got reservations. Like, and she's like, I just want to hang out with just us. And I'm like, oh, I love you. But the way I was raised, it was just like, we're always around people. So I think I just have this weird thing. Like, I really don't like being alone. Like if I'm in the office and nobody's there, I'll call around and see where somebody's at. Like, hey, I'll just meet you over there or whatever. I just like to be around people at all times. I hate traveling alone. I hate working out alone, like everything. So yeah, it's a funny thing people make fun of me is I just do not like to be alone.
That's interesting. So it's much more community based for you in the things you like to do. I love that. What's one of the best or most worthwhile investments you've ever made?
Again, easy coaching or mentorship. And so I grew up in a coaching background. I played basketball my whole life. I had amazing coaches and mentors throughout that. When I got in the military, like we had captains and CEOs of the ship. So like I had mentors that. And then once I got into real estate, my first business mentor was an OP of the current market center that I'm in. And so he would just take the time to like sit down and review P&Ls with me and go over the Millionaire Real Estate Agent models and foundation. And so I'm a big believer in like, although I believe I'm fully capable, I believe there's always things that we can't see ourselves that people can guide us on the track. And so, I mean, I have a coach for the market center or the brokerage that I run. I have a coach for my retail team. And then I also have a coach for wealth building. And so when I say it, I'm not just saying it to say it. Like I invest probably $5,000 a month in different avenues of coaching.
Wow. So the coaching is the original investment, right? And then the return on your investments, what's coming back, meaning what the execution produces. But I want to go to the in between the coaching and the execution. So you have a number of different coaches, a number of different business lines you're running, business partners in each of those business lines, and the DeSantos coming over for the movie. You've got a lot going on. That was supposed to be funny. So you have a lot going on though, right? You have a lot of voices, a lot of directions, and a lot of people pulling in specific directions for those specific business lines personally and professionally. If you feel overwhelmed or unfocused, or you've lost your focus because it's pulling in so many directions, what do you do? What questions do you ask yourself? How do you make sure that you clear it out to go straight to execution?
I think it's been a long journey of that, like throughout life and the military, and then getting into real estate and then building it to today. And so it's going to sound super simple, but time blocking and calendar management is a real thing. And so We utilize a system called the 411, but I really have like the big rocks for each company, what my responsibility is, monthly, what we want to take care of. And then I really believe the first tenet is relationships in my life building. None of these partnerships I have are half-assed. These are like real invested. They know me, I know them. Like we know our leadership styles. We've done Enneagrams and DISC tests and love languages. And so they know what to expect from me in this manner, and being very clear at what roles and responsibilities, mine and theirs. And then I'm very results-based. And so don't micromanage me if I'm producing the results that I want. And then if I'm not, I have enough like humbleness and removing ego to know that I need to perform at a higher level. And so it's like very much very specific. Like I focus on one thing on Mondays, Tuesday, Wednesdays, I focus on my team. On Fridays, I have the afternoon off for my wife. Like I'm very specific on the days that I'm working so that I can put in the most time and attention to those activities.
I heard a lot of what can be summed up in a word of discipline.
Correct.
You seem to have a lot of discipline.
Discipline and organization. I have coached enough teams. I've talked to enough agents. People get by on talent, and that takes you to a certain level. But the difference between a trained mob or a mob and a trained army is organization, right? And so I really believe in that. If I showed you some of the stuff that I have on the back end, like people think I'm crazy. Like all closed deals need to be, labeled listing dash address dash first initial last name. Don't put extra spaces. It needs to be uploaded at a certain time. Like very systematic, because then it relieves all of the questions or the guesses of what we're supposed to be doing. And so I do believe that being hyper organized or really organized helps alleviate the pressure of all the relationships.
On the relationship side, with that discipline, it seems like it's very natural for you to cultivate relationships. It seems very natural for you. Are there any systems that you put behind that, or is it incredibly natural for you there, and then you put systems around education and execution? Or are there systems on the relationship side too?
I think that, well, there is, because I believe, so not quite as structured as that way, but I believe I'm naturally a relationship builder. Like I love being in relationship, and I tell people, like, you'll never find a best friend like me. I just believe that. Like when we're in relationship, nobody will care about you as much as I can, unless it's your spouse or a family member. But like, I can tell you very specifically, my partner, Megan, I can tell you her financial goals. I can tell you where she wants to take her husband. I can tell you how old her daughter is and what school she's going to and what she has plans for private school later. I can tell you about my partner, Jordan, in the market center. Like his life by design was to create a co-TL opportunity where he can fly back to see his oldest kid, because he was in a divorce, every quarter in Texas. And now he's living that. So like, it's way like we know each other at a high level. And so we don't get caught up in all the little stuff. Like my team and I have their back and they have my back 1000%. So I think it's just a different level of relationshiping. I really make sure that we are in tune. So some of our 411s, we have a personal side. And so I know all of their personal goals on it, because it's very specific. And if it's not, we like, Caitlin, where's the date night? Where's the girls' night? Like it's little things, but they mean so much.
Sure. They really do. It's interesting that and what I like about it is that even though it's something that comes natural to you, you've put systems around it to keep that consistency and discipline throughout it, because it's important to you. So I commend you for that. I think that's incredible. Here's a question for you, because you're in a unique spot, right? You are a super successful retail business. You're running your investment sides. You have your ancillaries, but you also, as a team leader, get to have a lot of leadership opportunities with newer agents who are coming in, or newer business owners, or business owners who are maybe just starting to get their team built out. What are some of the pieces of advice would you give those agents or those business owners about entering the real world of real estate versus the idea of real estate?
And so, at the sake of sounding like what is it? Something that repeats over and over again. It's like, find a mentor or coach and follow the model. It's not that hard, right? And so I think the problem is that humans overcomplicate life. Like, and so we have all of these options. That's great. Which one is for you? And then go follow that model at a high level. And so I think there are so many opportunities to do so many things. People overstretch themselves, so they never execute something long enough to really find a result. It's like, unfortunately, society, right? Instant gratification. Unfortunately, real estate isn't that, right? And so I think most people get in for financial freedom and flexibility. And in my experience, the first things you sacrifice in this industry, in the real world of real estate, is financial freedom and flexibility, because you have to put in the groundwork to get to that opportunity. And so I think people listen to a lot of things, like things hit you at different times. Like it's like an 18-month play. It's not a 6-month play. It's not a 9-month play. Like 18 months to really get in. You're going to learn for 6 to 9 months. Then you're going to execute for 6 to 9 months before you can even see real results. Now, there are some unicorns that will get into production, or people that think they want to build a team, but it's just because they're so talented, but they don't have the structure in place to really support people. And so when it comes to team building, I just have a different model, and I just do not like, if you're asking somebody to join your world, you better have your shit together. And so I think a lot of it is like, you're taking the financial burden or sharing it with somebody who's trusting you to help them grow or to enter this game. And so if you're creating a team, like, you should be able to speak very clearly and definitively to your value proposition, the systems, the support structures, where that person will be in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. And what I see, unfortunately, is a lot of people like the idea of growing a team, but when rubber meets the road, like, they're just not prepared. They're not organized. The person's not getting what they want. They're not ready to have the hard conversation. And so that's been a huge challenge, I think, for the new agent.
Man, you hit the nail on the head there. The responsibility of bringing people into your world, to give them, and for them to see you as the way to achieve their goals, is an incredible responsibility. And to take that half-heartedly, or to not take it as seriously as you should. Obviously, they have to put in the work for their success, but they need systems and models and leadership. And if you don't provide that, that's on you. And it's a disservice. So that hit me hard.
Well, let me tell you, the hardest position is the higher ops position. So whenever you want to help me out, that shit struggle. I got an EA now, but I lost an ops 8 months, 5 different people in and out. It was tough. And then I had to take the leadership lesson. Was I setting them up for success, or was I setting unrealistic expectations? Did I do what I needed to do to prep them? And so it's a constant battle, but specifically on the agent side, I mean, these are new people that don't know shit about the industry. They're trusting you to help them level up. And then, do you have the stuff in place? It just sucks, because I see a lot of people do it, and then they treat these people, it's the person's fault too, right? But there's like, oh, well, they didn't work out. Well, shit, what did you do for them to help them? Like, besides give them a bucket full of leads and say, call. Like, come on, that's terrible.
Yeah, I agree. All right, I've got a silly question that I do like to ask, because the answers are always awesome. No pressure.
Uh-oh.
What purchase of $100-ish, a little more, a little less, has positively impacted your life recently?
$100.
Spend a Benji on that would make an impact.
$100?
Or like a reasonable amount.
That's a tough question. I'm not really, it's funny, I'm driven by profit and like money, like in terms of like getting it to what it can do for you. But I'm trying to think, I get it from my wife, and I don't think she's ever spent less than $100 at this point. Like, it's frustrating. So I'm trying to think what could be less than 100 that she hasn't spent on that's impacted it. But
or something just really cool that you bought that you were like, you know what? Everybody should try that. That was awesome.
This is going to sound weird. I have 3 kids under 5, and I have 1 on the way. And so I have a cleaner that comes every Friday now for about $125, and it's amazing. And I know my wife didn't clean the house, so I love coming home and being like, "Hey, did you clean the house today?" Even though I know it was the cleaner. Like, you did a great job.
You know, it's so funny, Kaleo. I have a house cleaner that comes every other Friday, and my husband will come home and he'll be like, "Did you have a good day?" And I was like, "Yeah, can you believe how productive I was? I cleaned the whole house, plus I worked, plus I did this, plus I did that." I'm a real overachiever. I have, hopefully he'll never see this. I have never admitted that there's a house cleaner that comes.
He doesn't know.
I'll
Oh
know
my
it. We all know it, but he'll be like, "It smells like Fabuloso in here." And I was like, "It's my favorite product." And he's like, "It's weird that it isn't in our house anywhere." Doesn't matter. I won't admit it. I just, yep. You're welcome, babe. I got you.
So,
Cleaning toilets and running spreadsheets. It's all I do.
yeah,
He's
this
like,
point in my life,
"No."
that is an amazing spin for me. So I love it.
Yeah. Cool. So you are focused on the investment side, and you are starting to make that transition, and you have invested in relationships, education, and hard assets.
Mhm.
What are the top 3 personal investments you have made recently in your career that have made the biggest impact in any of those categories?
Okay. Hard assets. So I just had a great buy. It was like the more you're open to it. I had a buddy that was on deployment, and he had a terrible property manager experience. I didn't even know he owned property out here. And so he was really trying to make a move to California and wanted his VA availability. And so I told him like, "Hey, put 20K into this house. We can sell it for X amount." And he was like, "K, I don't give a F about that house. Let me get 10K and keep it moving." And I was like, "Are you sure?" He's like, "Yeah." So I gave him 10K and he kept it moving. And so I think I owe like 150 on that property and it's worth 375. So that was like an immediate huge, like, oh man, like I wasn't even thinking about this. So just being in the game of real estate
Yeah.
created that opportunity. And so that was a big one. A personal investment was, this sounds weird, but when I say I take relationships seriously, I really do. Daniel Dixon had been on a couple of speaking engagements and I had been on a similar one. He had one in Charleston. I had actually turned it down because I had been on too many at that point. I wanted to stay home. The owner knew that I had a thing for him, a man crush for him. He was my real estate man crush. So they told me he was speaking and they asked me if I then wanted to come back. So I said yes. And so my wife and I had a discussion and she was like, "You just told me you weren't going. Why are you going?" And I said, "Babe, this is this guy. This is what he's accomplished, X, Y, and Z. It's a proof of concept. I have one mission." And she was like, "You're going to be his best friend." I said, "That's exactly what I'm going to do." And so I went out there and I would love the speaking opportunity, but if you ask the people, they knew I went there to make a relationship with Daniel Dixon, right?
But the
And
hat's for Daniel.
yeah, and so it actually took some work. We were cool when we met. His wife happened to be there as director of ops. So then follow up, I met with his director of ops a couple of times, and then I finally got into Daniel Dixon's world. Then he invited me to Be Wealthy. And so one thing I say is like, one relationship can change your life, but he was a big advocate for me coming to that. And then I've learned about the investment side at a higher level. I was able to bring my business partner, which then affected our business. Now we have a completely different investment arm. And so that investment in like that moment in my life to take that chance to go try to make a new friend. I mean, and we're still cool today. We went to Mexico together with our families. And so our wives are going on a women's ignite, like women's empowerment retreat together. And so when I say relationship at a different level, that was a huge investment. And it's like, he's already changed my life more than he knows, including Brett, who's his mentor. So that one, and then I would say the education of like ancillaries. And so when you get into real estate and you're kind of getting into production, your goal is just to get into production, right? You don't know the different conversations. And you kind of hear like, this is our preferred lender and this is our preferred settlement company. And you're like, oh, they're just really cool people that you
Yeah, whatever.
met. Yeah, you didn't realize that on the back end, the business model and the profit and loss statements. And so my initial business mentor, he really educated me on the business aspect of growing it. And so, like I said, it's really true. Like we've made 80 something K year to date from settlement. We're on our pace to make 90K from a MSA with a mortgage company. And I just locked in $1,000, $500 a month to the end of the year, then $1,000 at the beginning of the year for home insurance. And when you're running profit margins at whatever you're running at, so like ours is 40%, we're pretty locked in. But if I add ancillaries in, I now have 50%. So like it's just a game changer and like the opportunity you can create for your team. And so the retail team is, since that's going, now I can do the investment stuff with like not feeling like I'm risking things. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, this is just a great opportunity. And so those are three of the best investments, especially, you know, in the immediate past.
I love that. I also love that you used the three very specific examples of a hard asset investment, a relationship investment, and then a business opportunity and operating investment. Side note, you mentioned hiring ops people and getting them into production. So Dami, I know you know her on Daniel's team. She's one of the best in the business at it. I just had an hour-long conversation with her right before I jumped on here. She's one of the best. So that's a really good resource for you to continue to nurture.
I'll definitely reach out. I know she just had a kid, so I've been leaving her
Two.
alone.
She had 2 kids.
Oh, I didn't know that. So now I got to congratulate her.
Yeah. I told her, I said, Dami, you don't underachieve at anything. You're just, hey, I'm going to be the top performer. I'll have, you guys had 1 baby. I'll have 2 babies. She's so cool. That's awesome. Okay. My last question, which is kind of obscure. If you had a gigantic billboard anywhere and you could put anything on it, so basically you'd be getting a message out to millions of people, what would it say and why?
Gotcha. So this is easy too.
This is easy for you? I think this is a hard one.
I have a shirt that has my 2 sayings on it. And so the 2 quotes on my shirt that I typically wear to anywhere I go anyway is I'm a big believer in relationships. And so I'm a big advocate. It's not where you go, it's who you're with, right? And so we get in all these petty conversations about this brokerage versus that brokerage or this business. This doesn't matter. You can go anywhere as long as you're surrounded by the right people, right? And so like in the military, if I got stationed in Hawaii, that's a great location. But if I had shitty leadership, it's going to be a terrible experience. But if I would have had the right people and right leadership and I went to Bahrain, it's not the same as Hawaii, but I probably would have an amazing time. Like think of your best friends in life. If you went to the middle of a desert, you guys would figure out how to have fun, right? And so I believe that it's not the brokerage, it's not this or that. It's like who is in that people circle, because it's not where you go, it's who you're with. And so I'm a big believer in that. And then my second one is like, don't make it weird. After that, you're good. You can do anything. So
I feel like that's 2 flips. It's like someone's going to need to hear one of those 2 things at all times. In any situation, it's either don't make it weird or it's who you're with. That's awesome. Kaleo, I can't thank you enough. I took 2 pages of notes of things that I've learned from you today. So selfishly, the 45 minutes we just got to spend together were so impactful for me. And I really, really appreciate it.
I appreciate you just having me on. I'm humbled for sure.
This is so cool. And I know a lot of people are enjoying it. Kobe has mentioned in the chat that he really has enjoyed it. He thought it's awesome. And so with that, Kobe, what's the one question that you wish I asked Kaleo that I didn't?
I think that what's up, man?
What's up, brother?
I guess for me, like I have a 2-year-old, you know, we're thinking about more so just like the family aspect of like, how do you, like, I find myself where it's like bedtime, right? Like I try to be all in on bedtime. Like yesterday, I got like mad at myself. I threw my phone across the room because my wife was out and I'm doing bedtime, but then like I find myself looking at my phone or whatever. So I'm like, you know, focus. Like, how are you, like 3 kids under 5, other than having an awesome wife? I'm asking like, but about you specifically, how do you like, how are you pulling off the dad game at a high level to where you're not just the passive dad? Because I know you're not.
Right. So I think it allows a little bit of context. Hopefully my mom's not watching, but my mom had me when she was 16. And so growing up, she got married and divorced like 3 or 4 times, right? And I was like the best man in all of them, which is a little weird, right? So I like to joke that my mom was a pimp. And so now I think as I got older, I knew that I wanted to be a present father, right? And so part of my decision to get out of the military was my wife and I were ready to have kids, right? And so I'm not gonna lie, in the beginning, it was tough. And so one of the foundational changing moments for me was like, I always said I wanted to be a present father. Whatever that means to you, you got to figure it out. But I remember in July of 2019, I know the very specific date, I considered myself a top producer. I closed 45 deals that year as a solo. In July, I closed 12 deals for over 100K. So not only am I a top producer, but I'm making money, more money than anybody around me is making. And I feel like I'm being successful. And I remember July 4th weekend, tons of military families visiting, right? And so I'm organized. I had 37 showings lined up to a T, couldn't tell me nothing. I was going to execute this at a high level. My son had just been born. He was less than 1. He's in a car seat, right? And I found myself on a drive in between showings, and he was crying, and I gave him a bottle, right? And then he finished the bottle and he continued to cry. And I remember feeling frustrated, like, boy, I'm almost done with these showings. Like, come on, we just got to make it to the end of the day. And it was in that moment I stopped. I had about 15 showings left. I called 3 friends and I said, I'll pay you $100 a house. Can you just show these on short notice? And it was my personal eye-opening experience that I was everything I wanted to be. I was being the total opposite. And I was a shitty father. I wasn't doing my son any judge. Like, who cares if my dad wasn't there, if I was going to be this type of father to my son who is here, right? And so that's when I really began to change. That's when I started growing the team and I wanted my time back, right? And so I agree with you. The first thing, it starts with having an awesome wife, and for you guys being in true alignment and like what your guys' goals are together. I'm able to do speaking engagements and stuff because she knows what our end goal is. And she's like, babe, go be great. Like, go fucking get it done. Like, and when you home, this is mine, right? So I even have a role at home, like it's her domain. Like whatever you want at the house, you can have. And so my thing for me is like mornings before 8, it's all family. I wake up first anyway. I work out. My baby, the youngest, the third child wakes up around 6:30. I change her, get her ready. The rest of the crew wakes up around 7. She makes breakfast. She takes them to school. So at that point, they're in school. I'm good till 3 o'clock, right? Because they're gone. My wife works when she wants to work. She owns a nail salon at our house, like it's in a detached garage. So I moved that home to make it easier for us there. And then she kind of has the routine from like 3 to 6. And my goal is to be home before bedtime, right? We have dinner together. She does shower time with the girls. I do shower time with the boy. At this point, we're getting old enough where we might need separate shower time, right? And then, you know, I put him to sleep. But that's kind of my routine. And then on Fridays afternoons, I have a personal hold in my calendar from 12 to 2. And so her and I just go on lunch. We have a sushi spot and a Mexican spot we just go to all the time. And then on very rare occasion, we'll go watch a movie together. And then we'll go pick up the kids from daycare together around, or daycare and school together around 3. So like, it was very intentional though. Like that first year and a half, 2 years, I wasn't the man I needed to be for my family or for my kids. It was just getting real clarity on like, what can I reasonably do? Because there are days where like I leave at 8 and I don't come back home until 6, right? And so I've missed a lot, but when I come home, it's time to love on the family. And she hates it, but I let my kids sleep in my bed because I just love sleeping with the kids today. And so at some point they're not going to do it, but that's what I like to do for now. So I get some extra time by just cuddling. So that's my routine.
Thank you.
That was awesome. That was absolutely awesome. Does anyone else have questions for Kaleo? We have a few minutes left of his time that he's donated to us so kindly. I see Candace making a big move. Is she unmuting herself? She better now. It's too much pressure.
Kaleo, and I don't know if this is a KW thing, so you guys all have your own language, but the 411, is that a KW thing? Can you talk a little bit about what that is? Because that really intrigued me.
Yeah, no worries. So it's an organizational tool that allows you to become hyper-focused on your business to the weekly level. And so it's kind of paired with something called a GPS, goals, priorities, and strategies. So your goals, priorities, and strategies are like your big goals for a specific topic or project, right? And then you create a 411, which is 4 weeks, 1 month, 1 year. So if you don't know, Candace, I met at a Be Wealthy Mastermind. She's been an amazing friend and business relationship I've had, but I can send you a copy of I have a leadership 411, which is broken up very specifically by the 4DX. It's a book that I believe everybody should read, 4 Disciplines of Execution, but operations, marketing, sales, finance, and then personal. And then the agents have their own based on production and personal. And so we review it every single week with our MAPS coach. And then I have a monthly one-on-one with my business partner where we dive in deep and make sure that our big rocks for each month. And so I really like it because we know what we want to do for the year. Then we pick which months we want to execute those. And then like, for example, I shifted our listing agent model, right, on our team. And so like week 1 was like present the models to Megan. Week 2 was like discuss pros and cons with Megan. Week 3 was like make a final decision on the model. And then week 4 was present it to the team. And so it just provides real clarity around exactly what you're looking at and what you do. So it's been super helpful in my business. When, you know, Candace, as a team leader, there's always a million things to do.
Thank you.
So Candace, I put it up there for you to see. Obviously at Be Wealthy, we're open to all different brokerages. KW often has a lot of tools that are used industry-wide. But of course, in proper KW manner, we come up with different acronyms or things to call them in KW speak. Basically, it's just a goal action worksheet. So you have your annual goal for the year, the monthly goals, and then you break those down to hit on the weekly goals.
Awesome. Thank you.
And I'll drop a link to this in, and now I'm sharing my screen of things no one needs to see. But I'll go ahead and drop a link to that in the chat right now for you. Did anyone else?
I can share this with her too. This is an actual one. And so I love Caitlin for that. I also like anybody go watch speakers and they say they're doing shit, but they're not actually doing the shit. And so I hate that. Proof of concept. This is my real 411 for September. Sales, marketing, operations, finance, etc. K and M is for Kaleo or Megan, whose role is, responsibility is it? And then I also break it down for each agent, but this is what we review monthly with each other, and then weekly with our MAPS coach. So I'll just send you the copy I have, and then we can talk about how you can use it.
That's awesome. Thank you, Kaleo. You're exactly right. I will tell you, in Brett's organization, we do not use the 411 in that way. We use the action plan that we talk about a lot in Be Wealthy. We obviously do utilize the GPS or 135, that annual, what's our one goal? What are the 3 strategies? And then the 5 tactics under each strategy to get there. We use that and then base our action plan and flash reports off of it. So we use something a little bit different that I'm sure you've seen. And for those of you who are in Be Wealthy who haven't seen it, just reach out to us, or if you're in Be a Wealthy agent, just comment that you'd like more information on it below. All right, Kaleo, we've got one from Justin Myers. He's watching you live on Facebook because our technology is up. We're basically in 2017 now. We're catching up quickly. Justin Myers says, what do you do for your mindset to start the day besides spending time with the highest priority, your family? What else do you do in the morning for a mindset?
So I'm not as in shape as I used to be. And so a lot of my morning starts with either a Peloton ride or a walk, right? And so a lot of my mindset, I'm reading like 4 or 5 audibles at a time, right? And so right now, fanatical prospecting and shift are my main 2, because I'm trying to coach my agents through this shift. And so a lot of my mindset is motivational videos and that first thing in the morning. So when I get up from 5:30 to 6:30, I'm either listening to it on the Peloton or going on it on a walk and listening to the audible on the walk. And then the last thing would be finding real people that you can be vulnerable and talk real things to, or finding that person. So like a relationship in life that is in your position or higher that you can have fully transparent conversation with, because I think that leadership is lonely. And sometimes like we want to talk, but like our agents, you don't want to expose your vulnerabilities to your agents or to the people you're leading. And so oftentimes you don't have anybody to turn to. So Justin, actually, I'm in a dad's dreamers, and I'm in a dad's group where there's business owners of like 5 of us. We kept it small on purpose. And he just happens to be a part of it. But we talk about real things about just being alive in business, personal relationship, but it allows me to stay fresh and to make sure that I'm in alignment with what I'm looking for and people that are pushing. So audibles and stuff first thing in the morning, and then a real relationship group that you can be more transparent than you've ever been besides your spouse.
I love that. May I ask a very shallow question to follow up on that? And you got very deep and it was beautiful, but I'm going to just go a little shallow for a second. Who are your favorite Peloton instructors? Who's your person? I'm a fellow Peloton.
Oh my, Tundo. She's amazing. She has the best.
So cool. Yes. She has really good boot camps.
Yep. So she's my favorite. And then there's one, me and my wife have this joke of when we were at a restaurant, she like randomly told me like, man, that waiter is really good at his job. And he like served us water. And so then I looked at her, I'm like, do you think he's cute? Like, why did you say that? Like, that was a little weird, but it's become a running joke. And I can't remember the girl, like I got off of Peloton. I'm like, babe, that Peloton girl, she's really good at her job. So we have a running joke, but I can't remember her name, but Tundo has the best playlist. So I like listening to
Yeah,
her.
she's got great playlists. That's awesome. Very cool. Well, I've asked the most shallow question. I win the most shallow question award of the group. Did anyone else have any questions? We have just a minute or two left for Kaleo.
Yeah, Kaleo, I got one for you.
Okay.
So question, 249 units closed with, you said about 7 agents on your team. That's really impressive. Can you just walk me through a little bit of your model and how you got a low agent count for high production like that?
Yeah, so just the way my model is, I'm very invested in the agent's production and their training. And so I think that it can get a little watered down. Now there's different models, right? And so we have 5 agents in production, right? So I have a team listing agent who's paid salary and base. And so every team generated listing goes through her. We have a listing coordinator that helps her. So basically she goes on appointments and negotiates the contract. That's it, right? Then I have team agents, which are agents in production, meaning they're doing deals like under their names, right? And so I have 4 of those. So that's 5 total agents now, right? And then 2 of those agents are what I call lead agents. And we got this from a Be Wealthy mastermind when Daniel used to talk about teams inside of teams or pod leaders. And so 2 agents are lead agents and they both have partner agents, right? That work specifically with those 2 agents. And then 2 agents that are just solo producers, right? And so in my model, our team listing agent last year when we did that did 92 deals. It was like 78 listings and 14 buyers. One of the pod teams did 80 themselves. The other pod did 50, and then 2 agents, one did like 28 and one did like less than that, right? And so in my model, if you're with us for 1 year, 24 is the minimum, 30 units of production, and then you can't get a partner agent unless you're doing 50 units of production, and then we bring you leverage, right? And so it's very much like we are training, like you're not on our team if you're not in production. And the reason that is because I believe in relationships so much that if you're not doing 24 to 30 deals, which in my model is roughly 6 figures after the cap, right? Is that like, I'm not providing the value I think I should to your life. And if you're okay doing 10 deals or 5 deals, you're not the type of person that I want in my circle because I want growth-minded individuals that want to take over the world, right? And so I'm very picky with who we're bringing into our world. And so it's harder to grow that way, right? Because I'm looking for very specific people. So that's our model. So we have a partner agent model, which is like a team inside of a team. And so my lead agents, I mean, they're doing a minimum of 50 units each in their little model or pod. Typically it's more. And then my new agent or agents in production are doing around 30 or more, but they don't have a partner agent.
Cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, guys. Well, I can't thank you enough, Kaleo, for your time and pouring into our crew. If you guys do have questions for Kaleo or want to book a call, you need some help navigating some of the tools of Scale to Wealth or have some interest in learning more about Scale to Wealth and what we have to offer over at Be Wealthy, you can go to scaletowealth.youcanbook.me and that'll book a call directly with me. And I can go ahead and help answer those questions. I'll reach out to Kaleo for any additional tools that you might need based upon this call. And we are so thankful for this hour that y'all joined us with and look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Andrew's going to be teaching on the retail team side. So we'll look forward to seeing you there. Bye, guys.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Thanks, guys. Bye.